Hello, good people. This is a PSA from TSA. You are listening to the Underground Railroad Show at Spreaker.com. I am the great TSA with my assistant, That Ninja. I'm sorry for the lack of attendance. I was busy spiking faces and beating data dominoes. TSA out.
Motherfucker.
Who this nigga on that name?
Oh, man, I love the game of golf. It was a beautiful day out here today, wasn't it, baby girl? You didn't think it was a nice day today?
Well, I am sweating all over, so no, I didn't really think it was.
Well, I mean, you got to drive the car. You got to drive the car, and it did have the hood on it, so it kept the sun off of you.
Yeah, but it had no air conditioning.
Well, okay, fair enough. So, we're going to get something to eat, right?
Of course.
Cool.
And you're obviously paying, right?
Always. Always. Man, golf is a fun sport. Hey, I drove the ball pretty well today, don't you think?
Pretty well to the far right, yeah?
But, okay, even though I went right, my iron game was really good, and I was able to fight my way out of that.
Yeah, but you hit it into the sand, and you did that quite often, might I add.
Even when I went in the sand, my chip was really tight, so I was able to get out of there and get close to the flag.
After 3 times.
You have to admit, though, my putting game was really good, and it saved me a lot of the times from all of the bad hits I had out in the fairway.
And it only took you 11 holes. Listen, until you get a good golfing game, I'm gonna keep giving you shit.
I'm improving. I mean, since I've gotten started, haven't I got a lot better?
Yes, you've gotten better since your injury.
We don't have to talk about my shoulder, but I mean, that's another reason why it's coming along slowly, but, you know, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it.
Sure.
Hey, baby girl, I'm about to go hop in the shower. When I get out, we head out to the volleyball tournament, okay?
Okay. Oh, can I use my the computer?
Oh, yeah, of course, baby. Of course. Hey, baby girl.
Yeah.
Repetition breeds familiarity.
Familiarity breeds comfort. Comfort breeds complacency or success. We're going for the latter rather than the former.
All right, good deal. Handle business.
Okay.
Hey, remember you're a beast out there. Act like it.
I will.
All right.
Let me see what he got in these emails. Spam. Overdue bills. Not surprised. Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. Young nigga got it bad 'cause he's broke. What is this? Sarah? Linda? Becky? Amber? Amy? Molly? Ginger? Heather? Karen? Oh, hell no. We are not having this. No, I don't want no Pancake Tuesdays. Oh God, delete. No, I do not want your lemon bars, Karen. Oh, my dad's gonna get...
Do you have strong opinions and you're looking for a way to express them? Are you tired of carbon copy sports radio that infests the airwaves? Do you have creative concepts and ideas that you want to share with the world? Then this is not the commercial for you. This commercial is all about
Kinko's University.
That's right. Kinko's University gets you prepared for the podcasting world when you don't have the chops for it. If you're one of the many people looking to get into podcasting, but you just don't have the skill, Kinko's University is the university for you.
I want to do a podcast, but where do I start? And what do I talk about?
Kinko's University.
Don't worry, here at Kinko's University, the first thing we teach you about is OPP. That's right, other people's perspective, so you can always have something to talk about getting it from another source.
Podcasting looks fun, but do I really have to do all that research and show prep?
Kinko's University.
Absolutely not. Here at Kinko's, we have classes like No Preparation 101, where we teach you to get around all of that pesky show prep because we know you don't have the time.
I wonder what the best time slot is to get the most listeners.
Kinko's University.
Don't worry, here at Kinko's, we have a class called Recycling Ideas 101, where you can find a time slot that works and just jump in that slot to try to make it happen for yourself.
Kinko's University.
I want to come up with new content and subject matter, but I'm not that creative.
Kinko's University.
You'll also take Regurgitation 101, which will help you come up with other people's subject matter that you can recycle and make your own. That's right, here at Kinko's, we teach you how to get around hard work, getting new wrinkles in your brain, and having to work hard at your craft. Come to Kinko's, where you can take these top courses with top teachers. Most people that go to Kinko's graduate with Kinko's degrees, that's right, as master copiers. Kinko's University, for the skilled impaired.
Kinko's University is not a real university and is not accredited. You don't actually learn any skills. You just learn how to mimic people who have actual skill.
Underground Railroad Show with that ninja. All aboard, have your tickets ready because the train has arrived. Delayed or on time, it's time to get on board.
What's going on, fam? This is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja. Thank you for coming aboard, and I hope you are enjoying the ride thus far. My apologies for not pulling the train out on Monday, but the alternator went out.
You hear you? I hear you.
The alternator went out, and it took a while for me to find another one.
That motherfucker must have lost his goddamn mind.
Train alternators are hard to come by. At any rate, my apologies. My apologies.
What? Nigga, please.
Thank you for coming aboard, man. What we're going to get into today, this is the format. Today, I'm going to do a spotlight or give you my thoughts on the great Khalid Muhammed. The title of today's show is A Solid Foundation. A Solid Foundation. I'll discuss my opinions on why somebody can speak freely. As I've always said, it's my belief that as long as you're speaking from a solid foundation, which is essentially if you're starting from a basis of fact, then you've earned the right to be heard. If you have a flimsy foundation that I can tear apart, there's no need for you to expound upon bullshit. And some look at that as short-sighted, but if you're starting from a false premise, then you're engaging in a bullshit conversation. So to me, as long as you have a solid foundation in a lot of things, but right now, let's just say in your verbiage, in your thoughts and opinions, in your life philosophies. As long as you have a solid foundation, one must respect it and or at least hear your opinion out, even if they disagree. And I believe that Khalid Muhammed spoke freely and spoke with his entire chest throughout his life, or throughout his life once he became conscious, because he was speaking from a place that was based on a solid foundation, and he could back up everything that he had to say. So I'm going to just give you some thoughts on the great Khalid Muhammed, gone way too soon. I'm going to give you just a few reference points, things I've looked up that anybody can look up, give you my thoughts on that. And I'm going to give you some excerpts. It's not going to be the same format as me, kind of asking them questions, but I'm going to play an excerpt from the Donahue interview. I have a few excerpts from that, mainly because, and I don't even know, I should have teased that anyway, but mainly because of the time it was done at that point in his life, and what was going on at that time. I think that's a good one to get. So we're going to use that as a reference point and, to cross-check kind of some of the things we're going to talk about. So what I'm going to do is get into him today, and after that, and again, let me slow down with that. I'm really moving too fast. I'm all out of form. Got a format and not following it. But before I expound upon that, I mean, really. Let's see. You know what? Oddly enough, I don't have anything for this outside of the obvious, so I'm going to have to use the obvious. We have some very important born days today. Oh, before I continue, I almost forgot. Audio check. Yeah. Okay, I don't see anybody saying anything about the volume, so it must be good. Give me a quick thumbs up on the audio. I'm assuming I'm good because I don't see any complaints. You know what? If you're commenting, then you can hear me. So I can push on. All right. So before I continue, before I get into it, and again, not necessarily because it's Black History Month. This is just what I do anyway. But I really like to highlight people that don't get highlighted, and there are a lot of reasons to kind of get into Khalid Muhammad, his legacy, some of the things that he said, what he meant, the thoughts and minds that he inspired, the fuel that he ignited. So I like to get into that and just talk about the people that America tries to describe as one way, but I can show you through irrefutable fact that he was simply a man for his people, regardless of what America painted him as. But we'll speak about that hypocrisy as we get into it. But before we do that, on this day, February 26th, the great Denise Walker, formerly Denise Tiller, and most importantly, my mama, was born, along with her twin brother, my Uncle Derek. Y'all are fully aware of Mama Walker, I believe as y'all call her, as she's done a couple of interviews for me. And as ABM has stated, that's his favorite show. That's his favorite show thus far. Since I don't have the old school Cool in the Game, which I can't play on this format anyway, we're going to drop bombs. But happy born day to Denise Walker, a.k.a. Denise Tiller, a.k.a. my mom's. And happy born day to her twin brother, my Uncle Derek. Let's do that first. Happy born day to them both. Salute.
Amen, preacher.
Literally, because my uncle is a pastor.
Amen, preacher.
That's why I don't look at the chat. Look at the chat. Happy born day to Mama Walker and my Uncle Derek. Happy born day. Also, happy born day to the yellow one, a.k.a. Gregory Abbott, a.k.a. Terrence Trent D'Arby, a.k.a. Smokey Robinson, a.k.a. Kenny Skywalker, a.k.a. Sarge from A Soldier Story, who was also Danny Glover's father in The Color Purple. None other than the angry black man celebrating double nickel. Happy born day to ABM as well. The yellow one. Y'all see, he tried to, well, I'm going to leave him alone. I saw ABM's post. I said ABM tried to dim the lighting to. ABM was like the most delusionally dark individual I've ever met in my life. All black is beautiful, but it's just amazing to me how delusionally dark ABM is. So I actually understand why he refers to me as molasses and whatnot, because if he thinks he's as brown as he describes himself, no wonder he sees me as midnight. And I'm fine with that. That just means I'm blessed with more melanin. But happy born day to you, sir. Happy born day to the yellow one. Happy born day. And a belated heavenly born day to the great rough buff. Belated heavenly birthday to the great rough buff, born on the 25th. Then again, the things I normally have, they're not in here. They're not in here. So we're just going to drop a bomb. But happy born day to Denise Walker, Uncle Derek, the yellow one, and a belated heavenly birthday to the great rough buff. Happy born day to all of y'all. All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start here. So what I want to do again, I like to get into the people that don't necessarily get talked about. Just give you some viewpoints, my thoughts. So after my thoughts on Khalid Muhammed, your response, a few excerpts, and really playing the excerpts and just giving my opinion and just, kind of breaking down, almost like, how how you would appreciate it if sports analysts actually analyze the game. I'm going to do the excerpts from the interview kind of like that, just enjoying a sporting event where one individual is dominant over the other. So I'm just going to commentate that and give my thoughts and reaction to everything that I'm hearing and, what the host was attempting to do. Also today, I didn't write down most of them, but also today, after we get done with the spotlight on that Khalid Muhammed, I want to get all of your brainstorms. Again, we decided what we wanted to do for the annual bracket show, and the winning subject matter was the worst movies. The worst movies. We're going to do a bracket of terrible movies. Not necessarily. I mean, things that had a lot of hype and that flopped, but just anything that was terrible. Any terrible movie. So, kind of have that in the back of your mind, to kind of brainstorm on that after the fact. We're going to jot those down, maybe try to eliminate, get it down to a strong 32, and we'll get ready to set up the next bracket show. So the subject matter for the next bracket show is going to be terrible movies. I guess technically, preferably black movies, but it doesn't have to be. Any terrible movie. Any terrible movie that the average individual has seen, and even if you haven't, if it's popular enough. But keep in mind, the votes are going to go. If something is anything that's been seen by more people is going to have a greater opinion. So if it's kind of obscure, I don't know how many people are going to go watch a movie, just for a damn tournament. But we're doing terrible movies. So kind of have that in the back of your mind. After the subject matter in the beginning, we'll get into that and kind of narrow that down. I guess I'll do the seeding. I mean, if we can kind of narrow it down to a strong 32, maybe I'll get a few opinions on the seeding, but in all likelihood, I have to figure that out. And if all goes well and swiftly, we may have that next week. So again, my apologies for not getting the show off Monday. Not going to bother you with all the reasons, but outside of the alternator, things happen. But train alternators, I'm here to tell you, hard to come by.
Who raised you?
We're going to go ahead and do intros, and then we're going to jump into the subject matter. First man aboard the train, the aforementioned yellow one. The man with the that shares a born day with a born day with the great Mama Tilla. We got the angry black man, aka the yellow one, aka the podcast deserter. What's going on, sir? Thank you for coming aboard, and once again, happy born day. Got my man 334 Bama on the train. I'm sorry, we got 334 on the train. What's going on, sir? Thank you for coming aboard. Hope you are enjoying the ride thus far. Let me make sure I'm not missing. I do not see the person. Oh, there he goes. About to say I don't see the person they speaking to. We have the greatest from South Central. Thank you for coming aboard the train. The greatest from South Central. Playing those jams. Having those contests. The greatest from South Central is the Switzerland of podcasting. Everybody goes to a show. Thank you for coming aboard, sir. Hope you are enjoying the ride thus far. ABM said, excuse me. The greatest says, Doc Yaz, happy birthday, motherfucker. And I didn't do that right, actually. I got to get on my game. Let's straighten that up.
Who raised you?
The greatest says, Doc Yaz, happy birthday.
Motherfucker.
The yellow one says, you don't run your show from the truck? Was your internet cut off or the electric? That is funny.
Who this nigga on that name?
Who told you that?
You must be on something.
I was otherwise occupied, sir. Otherwise occupied. ABM says, Nick, can you touch Saquon's wife? What? Nick, can you touch on Saquon's wife rapping the N-word several times as she listened to hip-hop songs, video and audio of her surface this week? The subject matter is perfect. I'll address that after the fact, sir. I'll address that after the fact. That is hysterical. Give me a little more. Well, no, I guess I don't need any more details on that. I would say, okay. Abbreviated opinion before I have a chance to really think about it and or research in any shape, form, or fashion. That says more about Saquon than anything. But then again, he did kick it with negative 47, so might be fucking up my numbers. He did kick it with the orange motherfucker. So I mean, but that's my first thought is that's a reflection on Saquon. If they haven't had that discussion, that's wild. That's wild. ABM said the audio's good. Extra tiny size. Extra tiny. ABM said the audio is good. Extra tiny signs behind you are 2 packs of ass. Yo, I'm going to tell you like this. That's 2 packs of ass. Get that shit the fuck out of here. Dude. 54 laughing at the itty bitty sign. Don't laugh at him, man. I haven't got into my decor. I decided I didn't want, just a big ass Ohio State fucking sign back there. I didn't want that. So I'm thinking about some things. I've seen some things. I haven't yet put them up. I haven't decided how I'm gonna run it. Am I gonna be, am I gonna be in Man Cave Studios B, or am I gonna be in the primary area right here, where I'm in the room and at the desk? So I have to figure that out. But I'm gonna get some things. This is not permanent, but I got some other things, but I just haven't decided how I want to do it yet. I haven't put a lot into the background. My itty bitty sign. Y'all ain't shit. Y'all gonna notice those details. I appreciate it. ABM said, you forgot OG Darlene Ortiz is also a February 26th baby. Hey, man, I don't want to start on Darlene and how many shows she done fucked up with all her unnecessary ass opinions, leaning in on Corey's camera and shit. After he talks for 2 minutes and she don't get to say anything, she starts leaning in and fucking with her hair and grabbing cups and shit. Okay. But despite all that motherfucker do still look good. Happy born day to Darlene OG Ortiz. Despite how many shows she's destroyed. My brother is calling me. I will holler back at him. I'll holler back at him. I'll holler back at you, Slim. But you know what? I won't get into it. But for all the people that he has quote unquote had disagreements with, boy, I mean the one that I wish he would have a disagreement with is Teflon. So she's obviously put in some work one way or the other, but she's ruined my shows and I can count. But happy born day anyway. Happy born day anyway. Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that, Emil. Emil said 334. Those signs came with the drywall install. Y'all ain't shit. Coming aboard the train with his traditional, his typical, and his usual. Good evening.
Motherfucker. Motherfucker.
We have none other than the great JBJ on the train. What's going on, sir? Thank you for coming aboard, man. Hope you are enjoying the ride thus far. And again, still condolences, man, to you on your pops. The great JBJ, thanks for coming aboard, sir. Your Florida Gators are still in peril, sir. They're still in peril. JBJ saying happy born day to the yellow one. JBJ said, did you say you had to replace an alternator? I had to replace the alternator, sir. I had to replace the alternator.
You hear you? I hear you. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Little replacement. What
was that?
JBJ, I swear I didn't even look at your chat before I did that.
What was that?
ABM said her name is Alternator. Obviously, she is black. Alternator Jones, goddamn. Don't sleep on Alternator Jones. That's a hell of a nickname. I'd like to see how you come across that one. JBJ says, stop before I wake these kids. All right, let me get into it, man. I apologize. I had somewhat of a late start. But let's go ahead and get into it. The great Khalid Muhammed. as I look back on it now, as I've done, over the show over the years and actually finding out who he is and hearing his speeches and his research, I've given you my favorite quotes from him and whatnot. Getting to a few more today. As a matter of fact, might as well just start the show like that. I believe during the annual Dr. King and Malcolm X episode, as usual, we were running off quotes, or I was running off quotes. But I'll run off my favorite quote from Khalid Muhammed before we get started. Just going to give you a little summation of, just a quick synopsis of his lifespan. But what I really wanted to get into was just what he did once he became a member of the Nation of Islam. But, a little bit of his journey on the way, just my personal thoughts, unfounded as they may be, just my own personal thoughts about it, and kind of go along that timeline, Obviously major gaps and not as detailed as I would like it to be, but favorable or factual illustrations that were void of biases were hard to find. And as I said many a time on the show, black words are, in America, black words are worse than white actions. So white savagery is glossed over, but black words, no matter how true, no matter how articulately spoken, no matter how true, no matter how fact-based, no matter how much of a solid foundation these words are based in, are met with the vitriol that some of these savage-ass white actions should be met with, but they're not. Again, we can go right back to January 6th. Glossed over, but since then, verbiage from ninjas, as usual, and factual verbiage has been met with extreme vitriol. But again, we'll get into that as we roll. And matter of fact, let's start now. My favorite quote from Khalid Muhammed. And again, the Donahue interview was hysterical. It never gets old. And every time I watch it, I'm like, my man was wild for that. But it was masterful the way he played him in the interview. When white folks can't defeat you, they'll always find some Negro. Some boot-licking, butt-licking, buck-dancing, bamboozled, half-baked, half-fried, sissified, punkified, pasteurized, homogenized nigga that they can trot out in front of you. Khalid Muhammed. Again, just saying that one of there are very few American traditions. The ones that are spoken about aren't really traditions, but one that holds true is finding somebody of the offending race or the race that you are offending to be a spokesperson to say everything's okay or that it's not this, it's that. And that's been the strategy of America from the beginning. From the beginning, but it hasn't been necessarily talked about. And again, what I was going to say before is I reflect and look at it and look at the timeline doing the research. The one thing that I'm tickled about, or not tickled about, but I'm taken back by is how much, and again, there was no World Wide Web then, and it wasn't preached in the house or anything like that. So I was completely unaware of Khalid Muhammed during the time, because I was, these years, 1994, the Donahue interview was 1994, but he was active. And when I was listening to those Public Enemy songs, I didn't know who that was in the beginning with that quote. Have you forgotten that when we were brought here, we were robbed of our name, robbed of our culture, robbed of our religion? I'm fucking shit up. I'm fucking up the order of it. Have you forgotten that when we were brought here, we were robbed of our name, robbed of our language? We lost our religion, our culture, our God. And many of us, by the way we act, we even lost our mind. At the beginning of Can't Trust It, I didn't know that was him. I knew the quote, but I didn't know that was him. I didn't know of him, who he was, what he did. It just didn't. I mean, there are mosques here now, but I don't know if there was one here then. You know what? And there was actually, because there was actually an incident at the school, the more I think about it. You know what? That's not true. There was a mosque because when I was in high school, there was somebody up there trying to recruit, but back then I wasn't of the mentality. But at any rate, that was a whole different story. I won't even get into that because that was interesting. That was interesting. That was almost an incident. But I was completely unaware of him and some of the things he was doing and speeches he was giving and the things that were happening at the time. I was completely unaware. And it wasn't like and again, without the advent of the internet or somebody just being like, hey, have you heard this? Or hey, check this out. And since it wasn't a thing in the house, because it was mom, at one point started going to church. That's a Christianity thing. So you're not preaching anything from the Islamic faith or Black Muslims. Now, and again, right before I get into it, it always, not always, but I've ran across multiple situations where, again, otherwise productive and intelligent Black people would not even discourage. They would just speak about Muslims that were in the news and that did speak and that did talk, whether it be Farrakhan. I don't remember anything about Khalid Muhammed in particular, but no, Farrakhan was known enough, and there was always that he's crazy or something's wrong with him, but never any clarification. My thing is always, you can disagree with me. I don't. Who cares about that? But the one thing I'm not going to disrespect you by having you come here and waste your time and having nothing to talk about. And I'm not going to say something with my chest that I can at least back up with something. Now, sports related, you can obviously be wrong. But when you're speaking about something that's based on a solid foundation, I'm not worried about, speaking about that as long as I can back it up with something. But if I give you an opinion or if I say something, I'm at least going to tell you why I feel that way. The significant point or the significant part of that, if you ask me, is that I at least have taken the time to form my own opinion. I found that people that can't articulate why they feel a certain way or get offended when you ask them to, it's because that's not their thought. It's not their thought process. It's not their narrative. It's not their talking point. And what they expect you to do is what most of the masses do, is listen to them, absorb it, regurgitate it, and accept it for what it is. But when you come with questions or you say something that flies in the face of it, if you have and again, to me, it's not about winning the conversation. It's about having a conversation. And once you come out of it, everybody can come out, hopefully a little bit better. You've gathered some information and, chopped it up and exchanged ideas. But so many people are trying to win the conversation. They're not willing to admit that they could learn something within that or that they were wrong in one of their premises. So there are so many instances where I've just heard vitriol towards Farrakhan and anybody associated with the Black Muslims, and I never got a reason. I'll at least give you a reason for my opinion, but I never understood that it was very quick to say dismiss it or say he's crazy, but can't give you a reason though. And it's got to be from a news outlet that we don't control or a newspaper that we don't control, but what is your rationale? But again, some of that is, from a religious aspect. But again, I always say that productive and intelligent Black people always lose their mind over over religion and or politics. But let's stick with the subject matter. And I don't want to linger on things that you can look up. I don't want to linger on that too long. But born January 12, 1948 in Houston, Texas, Harold Moore Jr., who was actually raised by his aunt, Carrie Moore Van. So he went by Harold Moore and he went by Harold Van as well. He was raised by his paternal aunt, who stressed education. So that would be the important part on that. His aunt raised him and she was big on education. So Khalid Muhammed, one thing, was an educated individual that spoke well and spoke from a solid foundation. His things were fact-based. So he came from a place of fact-based thought, and that was installed in him early from his aunt and his educational background. when he was going to E.O. Smith Junior High. He transferred to Phyllis Wheatley High School, which was an all-black high school, which I think was probably a significant turning point. When you go somewhere, especially at these times. So if he's born in 1948, he's going to high school in the 50s. So especially during this time, you want to go to a school, 50s or 60s, you want to go to a school that, no, he was going in the 60s, but you want to go to a school that is invested and interested in actually educating you. And that was very much emphasized in those days because there were no other options. So educating each other was very important, and it was taken seriously, and it was something that wasn't frowned upon because prior to that, you didn't even have the opportunity to get a proper education. You know, whatever that means in this country when you follow this curriculum, but another story for another day. He went on to Dillard University in Louisiana, where he studied theology. So he was always into, so he was studying religion from an early age, or not an early age, but that was always kind of part of his foundation. It started him from his aunt. He's, went into being educated, and he was very much invested in theology. Later on, actually, before he even graduated, became a minister at Sloan Methodist Church. He hadn't graduated yet and he didn't have his degree in theology, but anybody that's seen his speeches know he's very well spoken. And that was in 1967. So yeah, going to school in the 60s, studying theology, became a pastor at Sloan Methodist Church. So he was actually a Methodist pastor in the 60s. Before joining the Nation of Islam, which I actually wasn't aware that he was immersed in the and basically the religion that most of us grew up in, one form of Christianity or another, whether it be Methodist, whatever it may be. But I didn't realize that, about Khalid Muhammed. So I found that to be interesting, and it probably lends to why he was so educated and well spoken on the Bible and religion and theology, on a widespread basis, because he had studied it, which also was important, because I think it's important to note he also was, for what it's worth, he was a member of Omega Psi Phi. He transferred to Pepperdine University in California, where he earned his bachelor's degree in theology. While in California, let me make sure I'm correct. While in California, Pepperdine, he went to Pepperdine and finished his degree. But while he was at Dillard in 1970, he heard Minister Farrakhan speak. He was at Dillard University, and that might have been a previous university. I can't remember if I'm jumping off of that. Yeah. When he was at Dillard, he actually heard Minister Farrakhan speak. I skipped past that. So he heard Minister Farrakhan speak when he was at Dillard. And what I think is of interest or of importance is that when he heard Minister Farrakhan speak, he was intrigued. He was interested. But the first thing that he did was he started to research Islam. He didn't get enamored right away. He didn't jump right into it. He didn't get caught up in the moment. He was studying theology. He was already preaching at a church. He had experience doing that. He was on his way to getting his degree in theology. He was somewhat invested in it. But he heard Minister Farrakhan speak, which actually means that, even if he did become a minister, in the Methodist faith, he would have been a great minister because he obviously studies and thinks and, speaks from a place of information. So he would have been one of the better ones. But he was in that world, in that mode, until he heard Minister Farrakhan speak. Once he heard Minister Farrakhan speak, he was intrigued. But the first thing he did was study. He started to research and study the Islamic faith. He continued listening to Minister Farrakhan and found himself immersed and enamored with the faith, which he eventually immersed himself in. Harold Moore, aka Harold Van, became Harold X. and I'm going to butcher this last name. He became Harold X as well as Malik Rushadan, and I'm probably destroying that. My apologies. So he was Harold X and Malik before Minister Farrakhan actually named him Khalid Abdul Muhammad, naming him after I believe a general, if I remember correctly. So again, starting out in Christianity, believing in education. So he went into it, and again, I think it'll really come through as we listen to these excerpts. He really went into everything from a point of education. He didn't jump into it emotionally or starving for something, looking for something. He went into it because once you start learning something that's true, that actually feeds your spirit and your soul, you're going to be drawn to it. And that was the case for who eventually became Khalid Abdul Muhammad. I want to make sure I'm not wrong here. I believe it was, I'm trying to get the year right. And this is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja, doing a quick spotlight and giving my thoughts on Khalid Abdul Muhammad, doing a little bit of a setup before we get into these excerpts. But after joining the Nation of Islam, much like the great Malcolm X, he did a great job of recruiting, bringing people into the nation, bringing people to the faith, spreading the word. He was rewarded with the mosque in Los Angeles, Mosque number 27, and became regional minister of the Nation of Islam. And after that is when he was named Khalid Abdul Muhammad by Minister Farrakhan. As he continued to work within the Nation of Islam, he worked his way up to a position once held by the great Malcolm X, national speaker. By 81, he was listed as Louis Farrakhan's personal advisor. Essentially one of the highest positions that you could hold. And this was in 1981. He did talks in Africa, Libya. Went on fundraisers. Essentially was doing everything in his power to further the cause of the Nation of Islam and what he believed in. Now, there are a lot of details that I could get into, but I kind of want to get to the setup of these clips and excerpts. But needless to say, he was a great representative of the Nation of Islam. He had international ties. He spoke with Gaddafi. He spoke with a lot of people. He did fundraisers that were successful overseas, spread the word in other places, growing his nation as he was sent out and expected to do and tasked to do. As national speaker, he went to a lot of different places, colleges, universities, and had a lot of speeches and conversations. Now, the difference in Khalid Abdul Muhammad is, I think most of us know, that he wasn't he had the ability to, I believe it was Malcolm X that said, and I could have played that clip, but stop changing up your speech for the white man. Stop changing it up. Let them know how you actually feel so there can actually be some type of understanding. Because once you let them know exactly how you feel, if there isn't an understanding, then there has to be some other kind of action taken. But Malcolm's quote was stop sweet talking them. And Khalid Abdul Muhammad 100% believed in that. He simply spoke in no uncertain terms. He got right to the point. He wasn't sugarcoating it. He wasn't making it palatable. He simply said what it was, and he was well within his right at this point, because at this point it was the 90s and we're still having the same conversation. And, being that blunt, being that active, being that national spokesman is how he caught the attention of so many conscious rappers back then. So, you can just think about the effect. He was one of the people that affected all of these conscious rappers and the way that they felt and all the great music that we actually grew up on before the music industry decided and realized this is actually benefiting them. Let's promote the bullshit. So they phased out people. People were, it's things trend, when people see that that's what's up and, it feels good to, learn those things and talk about those things, more people are going to do it. So they basically put a kibosh on that, started promoting something else. And once they started promoting that, people that wanted to be in that industry went that way. But Khalid Muhammed influenced Public Enemy, a lot of conscious rappers back then that used his excerpts and believed in a lot of things that he said. And it spoke about Farrakhan. But a lot of those people were brought to the faith by Khalid, or at least listened to some of his excerpts and believed in a lot of things that he said. And again, he was a great spokesman for the Nation of Islam. And this is the Underground Railroad Show, hosted by your boy, That Ninja. And I'm skipping around, but let's go here. And again, with everything that Khalid Muhammed had done, again, part of the was a minister in a Methodist church. Heard Minister Farrakhan speak, was moved to the point where he started to study the Islamic faith, became immersed in it after studying and continuing to listen to the teachings and words of Minister Farrakhan, of course, taught to him by Elijah Muhammad. Dedicated, making multiple trips to Mecca on behalf of the Nation of Islam, being a national spokesman, personal advisor to Louis Farrakhan, who named him Khalid Muhammed. In 1993, he gave a speech at Keene College, to where some of his rhetoric was deemed as what's the go-to for when they want you to stop talking? Anti-Semitic. And we're going to get into detail as far as some of this verbiage and what was said in one moment. But some of his statements were deemed as inflammatory, and the American media machine went after Khalid Muhammed. And much to his surprise, disgust, and, for lack of a better word, dismay, Minister Farrakhan condemned what he said and silenced him. Much like Malcolm X had been silenced after he said that seeing chickens come to home to roost never made him sad as an old country boy. It only made him glad. They felt that he had went too far, that he took it too far, and he was silenced. So Khalid Muhammed was being attacked by the white media machine, and then the group and the people that he was speaking for and he believed in more than anything and that he lived his life for, turned his back on him and condemned him as well, silencing him and not allowing him to speak, taking away his rights as the national speaker, which was akin to death for a man like that, who simply felt like he was speaking for the progress and speaking to the advancement of the Nation of Islam. So, I mean, that's an interesting viewpoint, but I don't want to get stuck on that. But, and again, just like Malcolm, once he was gone, he did not speak ill of Minister Farrakhan after that. He did not speak ill of what he called his spiritual father, Elijah Muhammad. But he wasn't going to be silenced, and he wasn't going to be in a position where he couldn't speak, and he felt that he didn't do anything wrong. Now, I felt like when they did have the Donahue interview, and Donahue thought he had some got you moments, that it was anything but that. It was anything but that. And It was a you don't see anything like that anymore. You might see it on podcasting, but on an actual mainstream news network, a black man being allowed to speak his mind and not being interrupted and cut off. And well, don't get me wrong, they were attempting to, and they still attempted all their bullshit, but he still spoke his mind. So since he was allowed to speak, he calmly destroyed them with nothing but fact, because everything he was saying was based on a solid foundation. And the Donahue interview was after he was condemned by his mentor Farrakhan. In his mind, condemned and somewhat betrayed, I'm sure. So that's why I kind of wanted to go with this interview, because he was really allowed to. There were absolutely it's not like there were before, but in this instance, there were no restrictions on his verbiage, and he simply just spoke his mind. And it was just a brilliant deconstructing of people that were trying to paint him in a certain manner. Once again, this is the Underground Railroad Show, hosted by your boy, that Ninja. Y'all a while again. Ha! I will not, ABM. I will not, sir. Man, y'all are stupid. I'm gonna read this chat and then let me get into this. JBJ saying great info, sir. I appreciate that. ABM saying Huntsville has a mosque. Wow, who knew? Yes, Huntsville has a mosque. Yeah, I'll buy the final call at the corner, so I've been invited a couple times. But yeah, Huntsville has a mosque, sir. Huntsville has a mosque. I don't know where the mosque was then, but I'll tell that high school story once I get through this. So I won't forget. And it's not much of a story. It's very quick. But again, I was not. I had no idea what the Islamic faith and the Muslim. I had no idea what the Nation of Islam was about. Zero. I knew absolutely nothing there. ABM said, JB, do you see those custom signs on the wall? Boy, you wild as hell. I should just leave it blank. JB said, black man, that little ass sheet of paper. The things y'all focus on. Black man, that little ass sheet of paper, Ninja has been squinting trying to read it. Is you blind, motherfucker? Oh, that's funny. Okay. Y'all are funny, sir. Y'all are funny. This is the Underground Railroad Show. Hosted by your boy, that Ninja. Yeah, man, that's my quote unquote little ass sign. I got some things in mind, and I've actually seen some things that I want to incorporate. So I got an idea of what I want to do. I got a pretty good idea of what I want to do. So I mean, when I have it nailed down in my mind, y'all will know. Once again, JBJ said, black man, that little ass sheet of paper, Ninja has been. It's not. Okay. That is not a piece of paper. That is not a piece of paper. That is a metal sign. It says, warning, if found here at night, you will be found here in the morning. I've had that for quite a while. It was at the other spot. I don't know if it was in Vision. I think at one of those former man caves, I think y'all have actually seen this. In one of those former man caves, y'all have actually seen this before. But you know this. At any rate, y'all are funny. It's not a piece of paper, though. Sir, that's a... Where? Hear that? It's not paper. It's not paper. That black man, that little ass sheet of paper. Ninja has me squinting trying to read it.
You blind motherfucker. Did you blind motherfucker? Did you blind motherfucker?
ABM said, JB, that's his show sponsor. ABM said, say that Malik R name again. I will not. I will not. Ladies and gentlemen, coming aboard the train to his traditional bomb drop for slapping the sauce out of his wife's hands when she attempted to apply it to my ribs. True story.
You hear you? I hear you.
True story. Actually happened. Ribs, sauce, slap. I give you none other than the great Sidney Jackson.
Amen, preacher!
The double nickel nigga is on one. The birthday man is on one. He says, Sid Jack Ninja secured show sponsors. ABM said, have you ever purchased a bean pie? I have not, sir. I have not. I'm sorry. You ain't shit. Yellow motherfucker. This motherfucker. ABM. Oh shit. Oh shit. ABM said that shit is too little for a burglary. Oh shit. Oh boy, you fucked up for that. I apologize. God damn you ignorant, man. Let me continue. Oh shit. That shit is too little for a burglar to read, sir. Oh boy. Okay, man. All right, man. Appreciate that. I'll get a bigger sign so the burglar can actually see it. Ah! Oh shit. My apologies. My apologies. Oh man. Ah! Oh shit. Quote, that shit is too little for a burglar to read, sir. Oh wow. Wow. All right, let's get into it. So Khalid Muhammed, once a Methodist minister, going to college for theology, so studying religion, immersed in religion. Here's Mr. Farrakhan speaks. Studies the Islamic faith, becomes part of said Islamic faith. Give me a... In 1994, he made an appearance on Donahue. I never watched any of those shows. I mean, y'all know I've always talked about the fact that I'm not much of a... I was never a talk show person. You know, that was always gotcha, you know, goofy shit. I was never, you know, that shit never interested me. I never liked to watch cops or anything like that. It just wasn't my thing. So the one thing that I really would have liked to have been privy, and I wish, who doesn't, but I wish I had this knowledge or this information back then. I really wish I had this information back then. I wish I just could have heard Minister Farrakhan speak back then or Khalid Muhammad speak back then, just to hear a viewpoint that without proper foundation, I kind of, how can I say this? Without a solid foundation. Without a solid foundation, I knew there was something. Just when I finally got to it, it was just something that I needed. I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. Is it? At any rate, I won't get into that. Let's get into this. This is along the lines of I got around the Mega Evers. I did something on the Moors. Spotlight on Khalid Muhammad is long overdue. So, using the Donahue interview as a backdrop, let's go ahead and get into it. And this is not necessarily interview form, but more or less like me being like a commentator and just kind of reacting to everything that I'm hearing and kind of setting up a situation that I think a lot of you are privy to. Before I continue, coming aboard the train, we got none other than Sluggo the motherfucking Hammer. What's going on, sir? Thank you for coming aboard. Hope you are enjoying the ride thus far. ABM said Khalid could not be muzzled, nor his message be dumbed down to appease sensitive, clear folks. Not at all, sir. Not at all, sir. And can't let that go by.
Right. It's fact. The truth is for everybody, but everybody might not be for the truth.
It could not, sir.
Amen, preacher!
Again, this is abbreviated, but let's get into it. In 1994, Khalid Muhammad appeared on Donahue. In a situation where I'm sure Phil Donahue thought he had a leg up and thought he was going to be able to essentially make Khalid Muhammad look bad. And much to his dismay, Khalid Muhammad had nothing but facts. So let's just start here. He played an excerpt in the clip where Khalid Muhammad spoke about Colin Ferguson, a Jamaican man that I believe killed 6 white people on a subway in New York. It might have been New York. I could be wrong. And he tried to corner him with his support of Colin Ferguson. And this is what Khalid Muhammad had to say. And once again, this is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja. What I'm doing is a spotlight and a highlight and a feature and my thoughts on the great Khalid Muhammad. Just gave you a little bit of the background. Now we're going to get into him, his words, and just my reaction to that and the things that coincide with it as far as the hypocrisy of this country. So let's get started. The backdrop being the interview interview he had on Donahue in 1994. So Donahue tried to corner him with his support of Colin Ferguson. And Khalid Muhammad had this to say.
You love a man who randomly killed 6 people on a commuter train?
I love Colin Ferguson just as much as the masses of white Americans love General Schwarzkopf, General Westmoreland, General Patton, General MacArthur, and Eisenhower. America awards her killers, and they get ribbons and stripes and bars. I'm sensitive to the pain and suffering of the loss of life on that train, but I'm one of the rebellious slaves. And so when black people stand up out of pain and suffering and frustration, I understand after 500 years.
This
Sit your ass down!
I'm sure Donahue was like,
What was that?
I mean, what he's simply saying is that it's a couple of things, just to me, just my humble opinion. It's pointing out the fact that there's only outrage when the people that are injured or killed or hurt or subjected to some type of assault look like you. But when it comes to what we're still going through and what we have went through in this country, you not only disregard it, you not only ignore it, you get pissed off when we bring it up. You celebrate, again, as I spoke about, on a multitude of shows. Fuck every president that has damn near been the president of this country, especially the first, 12, 14? They all own slaves. The founders of the country were a bunch of low-life, ignorant savages who are falsely written about and depicted as heroes, when if you're a Black American, there's somebody you would have liked to have killed with your bare hands, and they would have deserved it. God would have been like, good job. I got a seat up here for you when you get done down there, but go ahead and kick it. That's the only thing he could have said. Good job, my son. So he's just pointing out that hypocrisy. So that's the first little ambush by Donahue. I believe what we're about to hear now was his attempt to discredit, and this is something that happens a lot. And again, just giving my humble opinion. Again, every 4th of July, every President's Day for the most part, getting upset at Civil War savages being taken down, celebrating Independence Day, all of that shit is disrespect to any Black person that has a sense of history. But again, so I'm not going to drift, but all of that is disrespect. So again, as I said a multitude of times, I know we're not savages. I know we're God's people, because the divinity and forgiveness that we have is frustrating at times. They throw tantrums over elections. They throw tantrums over the truth. Could you not tell that part of the history books? I don't want my son to feel bad. I mean, why should he feel bad? Because my ancestors used to set your people on fire and take pictures like it was a photo bomb. At any rate, I digress. But just pointing out that hypocrisy. In this excerpt, he attempted to discredit Khalid because he would use comedy and rhetoric and make the audience laugh as he was educating them. So, and what I take this as is somebody gives valid information and they say one thing that you don't like, and like a savage, like a Phil Donahue, like a lot of America would do, you pretend like you can discredit the entire conversation because you heard something you don't understand, you don't agree with, or that you're not educated on. But the attempt to discredit him throughout the entire interview was incredible. And here's another one of those instances.
You love a man who randomly killed 6 people on a commuter train?
I love.
Okay. I apologize. I messed that up, obviously. I forgot, what I had going on, and I think I punched the clip. So my apologies for that. Let me get past this, and we'll allow the next one to go.
Just as much as the masses of white Americans love General Schwarzkopf, General Westmoreland, General Patton, General MacArthur, and Eisenhower, America awards her killers, and they get ribbons and stripes and bars. I'm sensitive to the pain and suffering of the loss of life on that train, but I'm one of the rebellious slaves, And so when black people stand up out of pain and suffering and frustration, I understand after 500 years.
And now we'll go with that clip.
Are you an entertainer or are you a committed person to black people?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I believe that the liberation and salvation of the black nation must be brought about by black people gaining a thorough knowledge of self after our 500 to 6,000 year Holocaust, where we have lost over 600 million. And so I believe that that education process must be a process of two steps: inspiration and information. So I seriously give information, but black people are a people of rhythm and spirit. So I also give inspiration.
So again, I think that lends to trying to discredit somebody for maybe saying something you don't understand or you don't get, and you attempt to try to discredit them when there's obviously invaluable or indisputable information that's, again, based on a solid foundation. And I believe that Khalid Muhammed spoke with his entire chest because he was basing everything on a solid foundation, and he could always refer back to said foundation because he was basing this on research, on fact, and on a passion for his people. So that's why he didn't mix words. And again, if you understand the history of the country, there's no need to mix words at this point. There's absolutely no need to mix words at this point. As we continue, and after a couple of more excerpts, I'll read chat. He was asked about, I believe this was about Nelson Mandela, and did he support Nelson Mandela in essentially letting white people off, letting the whites in Africa and South Africa off the hook. He let them off the hook to a degree, very gracious. It should have been a bloodbath, and he resolved it in a somewhat peaceful manner for what it was. And he asked him, did he agree with, them governing together? Did he agree with the fact that they were going to govern together? And again, Khalid Muhammed had something to say about that. And I believe I'll let the next, after this one, I'll see if there's something that needs to be said. I might let the next two play because it addresses South Africa and that situation.
But Nelson Mandela's attempt at a multiracial government in South Africa after the murder of men, women, children, and babies, and the rape of South Africa, a criminal settler colony that has been established like Israel there in that part of the world. I cannot go along with one man, one vote. Let me say why. If someone broke into your home, Mr. Donahue, and actually bum rushed your home, and Black Boot stomped your door down, and came in and robbed and raped everyone in the household, and was able to take the wealth of your home and parlay it into an empire. This is an invader. This is an intruder. This is a murderer. This is a burglar. This is a criminal. So you have no responsibility to share your home with them after they broke in and committed the crimes that they did.
You want...
So again, they always tried to frame it as, hate or an attack on other people. He was simply stating his opinion. And as he said during that clip, I do not support it, and let me tell you why. Most people don't do that because they're not even speaking from a place of research, and they're not even stating an opinion that's their own. As I always say, never get taught, always learn. That simply means research what you've been told. Khalid Muhammed just didn't jump into the Nation of Islam. He was intrigued, so he researched. Which is why in this situation, he was so well studied, well educated, well spoken, and well read that they had no chance to hem him up as much as they tried. So he spoke about why he didn't agree with a unified government with trespassers. He continued to speak on this subject. And again, this is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy that Ninja, doing a feature on the great Khalid Muhammed. One more excerpt and then I'll read some chat. While I'm doing this, I forgot to say this, no sound bites because of the way I had to set the clips up. I don't have enough storage to separate all of them. I have to run them together. So I can't play any sound bites right now. So I will probably read some chat, but I will not be able to run sound bites. Maybe I'll come back and get them. But I don't want to run through the whole thing without, without reading a little bit of the response. But just FYI, I can't run sound bites right now. Again, nitpicking and kind of pulling, trying to just, trying to hem them up and nitpicking and whatnot. They were discussing, or he brought up Khalid Muhammad's quote that after 24 hours, if the whites ran out of South Africa, they needed to be killed. So when Donahue came with that, this is Mr. Muhammad's response.
I'm just as interested in the freedom of my people as I am in the self-determination or the Kujichagulia, self-development, them being self-defining, self-respecting, and you cannot deny the undeniable and indisputable and irrefutable truth, fact, proof, and history of their bloodshed there in South Africa. I said it would be merciful if they would leave. I don't agree with a government, a sham government. No man walks out of prison after 27 years and becomes the president unless there's a script and a plan behind the scene to remove the economic sanctions from whites in South Africa, but no real plan for redistribution of the wealth. The Oppenheimers, the De Beers, and others there sucking the blood of our people. So I said, be merciful. Give them a period of time.
24 hours.
Truman gave the Japanese a period of time, but when they didn't comply, he dropped the bomb on men, women, children, and
babies. So again, just relating, as they're trying to paint him as some type of hate monger. Everything they're accusing him of doing that he has not done, by the way. He's pointing out the fact that y'all have actually done these things and or you're doing these things. And the other thing that was really prevalent is that at no point did Donahue address anything that he was saying. Any of the irrefutable facts that he was saying, none of them were addressed. None of them were addressed. This is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, that Ninja. Let me read some of this chat and then I'll continue. Sluggo said Nick was too busy watching Sally Jesse Raphael back in the day. I was not. I didn't watch any of that shit. But you know what's funny is that I did have for a very short period of time, I did have a girlfriend at the time that had some red glasses and they called her Sally. And she was black. Okay, let me get that out the back. She was black, but she had some big red glasses. So people just called her Sally because Sally was on TV with red ass glasses. So that's the only relation I had to the Sally Show. I had to clarify that. Y'all had jokes. ABM said Donahue was on for a long time. I will give him credit for bringing on folks that no other clear co-host would. His show started in Dayton, moved to Chicago, and finished in New York City. Great information, sir. Great information. And I had to, to a degree, he did allow him to come on. He didn't make the audience one-sided, so it was a good show. Somebody in the comments said it was supposed to be a 2-hour show and they cut it off at an hour. I don't know if that was true or not. Sluggo said, I can't imagine being introduced to those black thought leaders. Looking back at it now, I was robbed. Exactly, Sluggo. I wish I could drop a bomb, but exactly, that's how I feel. I feel like I was robbed. As I speak about the education we received from a historical standpoint, it was criminal. And again, I want you to look at all the things that they're trying to call anti-Semitic and the things that they're trying to accuse him. What they're saying, what the things that he has said, and they're saying that makes you anti-Semitic. If any of that is true, which it isn't, that means 1,000% that America is an anti-black country, if that is the standard. But again, it's about suffering in silence. ABM says, Sluggo, I know Nick wanted to hook up with Ricky Lake back in the day. I don't understand where this comes from. Don't laugh at ABM, man. Sluggo said, throw tantrums and have a long history of throw tantrums and have a long history of defecating in public spaces. Again, all sad but true. All sad but true. Sluggo saying, preach. Sluggo said the whites would have shows like this canceled in 2026. Absolutely. Absolutely. They would not allow that conversation, because if you watch that, you can go back and watch that clip now. Look at the way he was inspiring the people that were there, and a lot of them were knowledgeable, you could tell, but you could see the look on people's faces and how they felt and how empowered they felt by him standing up there, educated, well-spoken, and verbally murdering Donahue with nothing but calm and assertive facts. It was fucking beautiful. ABM said, facts, Sluggo. Donahue would have never. Oh, excuse me. Facts, Sluggo. Donahue would have never lasted for 29 years in today's climate in right-wing owned media, in the right-wing owned media age of today. And that's why they wanted to take over media and govern everything that was on. Because those positive and factual messages matter. So they just cut the shit out. The same way they're just erasing history because we don't want our children to feel bad. Not about the truth. It's, at any rate. Sluggo said, Nick, go see the Geek Squad and add some memory to that Acer 100, sir. ABM said, y'all know I have an Acer, and it does not have the capacity for clips and sound bites. It is what it is. Y'all are foolish. I can't play the sound bites right now, but the problem is, StreamYard has limited capacity, and I have a lot of sound bites. So I don't want to just erase 10 plus sound bites to try to get in every clip and then have to come back and replace it in this little ass fucking speaker, this little ass damn studio that I have. I don't want to do that. So I have to combine these clips and run them on. I broke them down to about 4 clips, but this is at any rate, I have to run them together. It just makes life easier. It just makes life easier. I do not have an Acer. ABM said Nick's laptop has megabytes memory. Bro, go get a portable hard drive with a 4 to 5. I have a hard drive in here, man. That's why I'm looking at my hard drive. Y'all are tripping. Her name wasn't Sally. ABM said, sure, Sally was black. Her name wasn't Sally. It was Dee Dee. At any rate, let's move on. Donahue then tried to again come at Khalid Muhammed and asked him, have you completely dismissed and disregarded the idea of working together to resolve the issues?
I make no apology for that. I believe that the invasion of South Africa was an act of unprovoked war. One nation against another nation, and nations must fight for the self-determination. They had no business there, Mr. Donahue.
Yes. Would you like to see?
My apologies. I didn't allow that clip to finish playing. I stopped that one a little short. That was how he finished off talking about South Africa. Now, this is his response to, quote unquote, working with the whites to achieve a common goal. Reaching out, so to speak.
My arms are tired, Phil. We reached out for 500 years.
Too late now.
We faced tanks. We faced water hoses and cattle prods. Vicious dogs bit the breast of black women off in those protest marches of the civil rights movement. Vicious four-legged dogs sicked on us by two-legged dogs, bit into the groin and the private parts of black men, women, and children. So, Mr. Donahue, I believe that the white man is absolutely disagreeable to live with in peace, and that no one has been able to get along with him nowhere on the face 196,940,000 square miles of the planet Earth.
Wish I could hit soundbite right about now, but again, just chopping them up with facts. And again, he's trying to make it seem like he's the problem, and why don't you want to work with us? No, motherfucker, no. Y'all don't want to work with us. All you have to do is stop being a piece of shit. We're not asking white people for shit. Y'all gave shit to everybody else and pretend like we want to hand out. Everybody that's ever come here, you gave them an economic floor. You purposely didn't give us one. And when we achieved anyway, you attacked us with your ignorance, and the only thing you know how to do is be savage. That's the history of the country. Sorry. So, again, he's trying to frame it like Brother Muhammad is the problem. No, you're the problem. And as he said, my arms are tired. I'm tired of reaching out. We done all that shit. You don't want to reach out. You don't want that. You want us to be agreeable in your bullshit. That's why they're erasing our history with a smile on their face. That's why they elected an ignorant motherfucker with absolutely no qualifications whatsoever, just because he made them feel like they're ignorant ass grandparents. And if it doesn't apply, more power to you. But he ran on nothing other than, I'm an ignorant motherfucker promoting this short-sighted white view that something is happening to us because we are somewhat held accountable from time to time. I wish I could, what's the only viable complaint is that I want to be a piece of shit, but you're criticizing me for it. I'm so oppressed. And it's laughable. So again, he dispersed that. This was funny. And if I'm in the right place with this, I believe Donahue asked him, was he going to continue this rhetoric? He said, I will continue my rhetoric and action. Donahue said, well, what do you mean by action? I mean, what do you mean by action? Let's start right here in the United States. What do you mean by action?
Well, no wise general sits with a representative of the opposition to discuss battle strategy and battle plans before the entire world. I don't think that would be wise. But the mission of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the mission of my spiritual father, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, whom I love very much, and I want to be in that number when he takes 1 million black men to Washington, D.C. to call for reparations and justice. Their work is a work of liberation and salvation. Their work is a work to raise the mentally and spiritually dead black man and woman after we have been robbed of our names, our language, our religion, our culture, our God, our folkways, mores, and robbed of a power, the power of our own being. Lift to say
again, as Donahue asked him, what do y'all plan on doing? Again, just another example. Everything doesn't have to be said on air. When things are really being done, you can have things to say, just like this is what really stands out to me, because it's gotten to this point, and looking back on this, I'm like, shit, this is the 90s. This is when they really said, let's cut this shit out. You can see it so clearly. This is when they truly said, let's cut this shit out. It's gotten to the point, and I spoke about this many moons ago, is when a black person tells the truth and white America acts like they're offended, instead of black America ignoring it, you take on their talking points and act like something wrong was done. Where's the crime in everything that he said thus far? Where is the so-called outrage? If I'm basing this in fact, what the hell do you really have to say? The only thing you can do is yell over me, lie, and this is again why I don't have any respect for anybody that does this, because to me it is a completely and totally American, it's a Caucasian ass move to ignore facts and play victim. Let me say that again. It is a very American Caucasian move to ignore facts and play victim. And that's what they do with a person like Khalid Muhammed. They did the same thing to Dr. King. They did not love him. They hated his black ass because they wanted us to shut up and just accept what they had done. In their mind, well, look, we're not, hanging yo in public and going home and putting on our church clothes and coming back and taking pictures with it like we used to. Why are you complaining? True story. Again, this, you know what, let me just move on. But the point is that he speaks intelligently and clearly. And nowadays, and even before now, 10 to 15, 20 years ago, the media machine and moist ninjas convinced a lot of black people that simply telling the truth was being militant. That's not militant. That's being intelligent. And through the media machine, they convinced a lot of ninjas to soften their tongue or make their words and thoughts palatable to the people that, quite frankly, are part of the problem if they don't want to hear the truth. Anybody that doesn't want to hear the truth is part of the fucking problem. As Sluggo said, I really feel robbed. Because I think that would have, because once I got a hold of this information, it awakened something in me and caused me to want to explore and study. I think that process would have started much sooner if I would have been privy to some of these things, or just maybe paid a little more attention to what I was listening to at the time. And again, going to try to discredit Brother Muhammad, Phil Donahue went into an excerpt. Now, again, I'm going to play this, but he got into a clip where he said, let's pull up the Pope's skirt and see what's under there. And Khalid Muhammad clarified on what he meant by that. And I just want to say now that, again, facts, he clarified on it. And even though he, as I've spoken about this entire, all of these excerpts, at no point did he address anything that he said. He just went on to the next thing, even if he dismissed the next thing with what he just said. Even when he clarified, he tried to stay on this point because I guess at this point he realized, man, I have nothing. So he tried to stay on this, the point about pulling up the skirt, which is a metaphor, and Khalid Muhammad clarified.
The Pope, according to H. Shelton Smith, President Emeritus of Duke University, in his book entitled In His Image, quote, the Catholic Church and the Pope were directly involved in the institution of slavery. They financed slavery and gave the okay that it was good business to sell Africans. Lift up the skirts of his garment so that we can see the shame and reveal what has been hidden. But it has nothing to do with sexuality whatsoever.
He clarified. And what did he talk about? The Catholic Church supporting and co-signing slavery. He didn't expound upon that fact. And he quoted the study and where it came from. He didn't expound upon that fact. He went into continuing to repeat, why do you want to lift up a skirt? What do you want to see? And this is what I find amusing about that. Catholics, white Catholics in particular, you're offended by him using a metaphor that he can clarify intelligently, and he just did. But you're not offended by the Catholic priests pulling up the robe or the skirt of altar boys and penetrating them repeatedly until they ejaculate. And the issue right there is that more people are offended by what I just said than the fact that Catholic priests have been fucking and molesting altar boys and members of the church for years. It's a fucking pedophile ring. It always has been. And that's swept under the rug because it's spiritual. That's some dumb shit. You're not offended by that. You're not offended by the millions, damn near billions of dollars paid out for restitution and all the people that have been raped and abused. You're not offended that the Catholic leaders got together and they couldn't get a majority vote on a Catholic priest being removed if he raped a child. Let me say that again. The leaders of the Catholic Church could not get a majority vote on kicking a preacher out for molesting a child. They couldn't get a majority vote on that shit. And you're worried about him saying lifting up the skirt? What about all of those damn altar boy robes that are being lifted up by the priest? And then they send them to another damn parish so they can keep doing the shit. The police haven't kicked in the doors yet. You're not offended by that. It's not about again, black words are way worse than white Catholic priest fucking little boys. Because for some reason that doesn't seem to hit. Apparently it's not a big deal in that community. I don't know why. It's weird to me. Not a big deal in that community, apparently, because you're worried about these words instead of the actions of the people he was fucking talking about. What the hell is going on? You know what? At any rate, do your thing. I guess it's a Catholic thing. I don't know. You can't argue with me on that if you're Catholic. If you're mad at that, then you're proving my point about organized religion. Give me a break. How does that slide by? Lift up the garment. That's offensive. Raping children. Just transfer them. Perfect soundbite. I can't play it right now. Let me let's continue. Where are we at? All right, right there. All right, let's continue. Okay. This is when they attempted to call Khalid Muhammed anti-Semitic. And this is part of the speech that Minister Farrakhan condemned. This is an excerpt. And this is telling to me because if you're going to pull an excerpt, I would assume you're going to pull, a terrible excerpt or what you think is the worst thing. And I'll speak about this after it's played.
The hook-nosed, bagel-eating, lox-eating, imposter perpetrating a fraud, Johnny-come-lately just crawled out of the caves and hills of Europe. Wanna be you.
Okay. Now, if you want to say something about that, you can maybe say I'm offended because you talking about the hook nose and the lots and bagels. Now, the hook nose is relevant in some instances, and you definitely lots and bagels. So you can say, it's offensive, but I didn't hear him say kill Jews. I didn't hear him say go to hell Jews. He called them imposters, but there's going to be something to clarify that shortly. So he called them imposters, but once again, he had a reason for that, and that's going to be verbalized shortly. But I didn't see him say anything. What's anti-Semitic about that? You're not bulletproof. You can be talked about. As much as this country still fucks with us and gets mad when we point it out, and y'all double down and just continue to act ignorant by voting for this motherfucker, and you're still acting like you're not a piece of shit. But you want us to be sensitive for shit that you say we should be sensitive to? How about that? How about that? Those are words. What's going to happen after that? You're going to lose the things you own? Not going to be able to get along? What's going to happen? Those are fucking words. What that was a joking and maybe offensive description of somebody. Ooh. That's anti-Semitic? If that's anti-Semitic, this entire goddamn country is anti-black, and so are most of the people in it. If that's the biggest thing they could pull out of that, that is fucking weak. Off of that clip, Donahue tried to go with what he thought was his big closer. And this is something that they do a lot. And I've spoken on this, and I'm going to say this before I play the clip. This is a huge misnomer in the black community, and they're so good at it with their brainwashing and slow IV drip, with their slow IV drip of brainwashing and the mental warfare, the psychological warfare, rather, that we deal with on a daily basis, that so many black people, and I've heard this said, when you're talking about our struggle and our progress, you can't get through it without some nigga screaming at the top of their lungs, don't forget to thank all the white people. We couldn't have done it without them. Let me offer another perspective. Number one, if you believe that, we'll never be free. We can't be free with help from the problem. But for the people that were involved, let me offer you a different perspective from calling them heroes and interrupting to make sure you shout them out instead of your own people who should actually be a concern. That's a white narrative, but I'll tell you why. Again, I'm not just going to say that. It's a white narrative. I'll tell you why. How about this perspective? Instead of considering them heroes, how about the fact that there were so few of them, that you can point out and say, hey, look at this group of people. What you're actually saying, and this is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy that Ninja, slightly stalling because I see my feed is slightly freezing. And I'm waiting to see if this is going to catch up. Okay. I noticed there was a long freeze right there. I'm going to reset where I thought it spun. But instead of looking at those cats as heroes, the cats that said, hey, segregation is wrong. Killing black people for no reason is wrong. Hanging and castrating them is wrong. Instead of dismissing the people that are actually under attack, which is us, and stopping everything to say, let's talk about them, let me offer you this. Instead of looking at that as, oh my God, look at these heroes. Actually, what you're looking at is the small number of white people that were decent. That not wanting to see people die is not heroic. Not want to see people hung and castrated is not heroic. Not want to see people treated humanely is not heroic. That's regular shit. We do it every day. That's regular shit. That's not heroic. The only way you can call that heroic is if you think that group of people have a propensity to be savage. Now, if you think they have a propensity to be savage and they're constantly fighting that off, then yes. That's not a heroic act. That's just being normal. That's just being normal. That's just not wanting to see people die. Most people feel that way. Most people are repulsed by death. Most people don't see two black people hung and killed and castrated or burned alive, and then they all go home and put on their good clothes and squinch in close to take a picture because they can't wait to send it to people. That's who we're here with. That shit doesn't disappear in 2 or 3 generations. And that's obvious from the behavior, but specifically, Donahue got into 2 Jewish people that were killed in Mississippi, and we all know the story. And he wanted to focus. Again, he hasn't addressed anything that Khalid Muhammed has said about America and what they've done to black people, or black people going through all the facts that he's laid out. He hasn't addressed one fucking thing. But he wants to talk about 2 Jewish people that were killed. And this is what Khalid Muhammed had to say.
I'm concerned with the suffering and the pain of the masses of black people. No one wants to pay reparations. The Jews received over $100 billion in reparations and gets $4 billion annually. A Holocaust museum was set up for them on this soil for over $200 million, and they get $21 million annually just for operating expenses. But the Catholic Church, the Pope, the Jews, the Arabs, white people in general, no one wants to pay reparations to these, the sons and daughters of Africa. So I speak to them. I speak to them. I don't speak to the family of those two Jews. There are too many of us for me to speak to them.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? That's not anti-Semitic. That's anti-black, because just like most of white America, what Donahue was doing, and Donahue's Jewish, if I'm not mistaken, he's trying to shift the damn conversation to the suffering of Jewish people. Let me explain what that is. Just my humble opinion. Not really an opinion at this point on this subject. What that is, if you look at that for what it is, and you could miss it, you're looking at that like, oh my God, why won't he, give those, as I was just saying about, that's not a hero. They didn't want to see black people, they didn't want to see human beings being treated like shit because they weren't white. Oh God, what a hero. That's basic instinct. What's alarming and what you really should focus on is there were so few white people that were willing to stand up for what was basic and decent that you can literally name two of them that were there. That's what's alarming to me. There were so few of them that you know the name of the two that were killed. That's a very low percentage when you can specify this person and this person died. And he kept trying to harp on that and scream, they died fighting for you, and This isn't about y'all. And anytime we bring up the issues, whoever we're talking to tries to make it about them. They try to deflect, or they pretend to be offended, or they just start screaming like bitches. But what they don't do is engage in a conversation. Even this, there's no conversation. The fact that he's allowed to speak is interesting, especially the way things are nowadays. Again, I don't believe in cancel culture. Who, at any rate, doesn't mean anything. A group of nobodies saying, hey, you can't do this because we say so. You got to be pretty fucking weak-minded to give a shit about that. But it's offensive because you're trying to take the focus off of the people that have the problem, black people. And you're trying to take some of that and say, what about these two Jewish kids? That shows me that there were so few of y'all that were willing to stand up for basic human decency that you can name two of them specifically. Them some low-ass numbers. That's not impressive. That's basic human decency. And it is disrespectful and bullshit for you to try to shift the conversation. Calling somebody hook nose and a bagel eater is not akin to going to a store in Buffalo specifically to kill black people, going into a church in South Carolina specifically to kill black people, going into an area in Jacksonville, Florida specifically to kill black people. Khalid Muhammed never did that. The Nation of Islam has never done that. Only crazy ass white people. So what? Black words worse than white actions. Khalid Muhammed nor the Nation of Islam has never done any of the shit that white people have done to black people. Once again, proof positive that we are not savage, but words piss them off because they want us to shut up and act in a manner that makes them comfortable. Stay within the confines of what I feel is comfortable and acceptable, or else. Basic human decency is not hero shit. It's not. This is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja, just speaking on the great Khalid Muhammed. Not necessarily because it's Black History Month. It's more of a football season's over thing for me. And I like to do these type of shows once I'm out of the pigskin season. Sluggo said, I need to find the full 1993 speech Khalid made at Keene College. That's where he laid into the Jews. That's what got him suspended / demoted. 100%, sir. And I played that one excerpt. And to me, if they're going to reach for an excerpt, they had to have thought that that was the worst thing that he said. That just sounds like somebody playing the dozens to me. I don't think that hurts their economic floor. ABM said, Sluggo said, I just found an ABM. ABM said, I'm going to listen to it tomorrow since I'm off. Again, there were so many. I may do another one of these because I'm just focusing on this excerpt, but there are so many other speeches we could get into. But ABM, okay, I read that one. Sidney Jackson said, man, man, white people are fucked up. Sidney said, apparently touching little boys' dookie holes isn't a crime in the male community. And again, apparently it's not. Where's the outrage? Again, a quote, lifting up a skirt. He clarified why, but you want to harp on that. Why the fuck aren't you harping on the fact that multiple and a disturbing and alarming number of Catholic priests are fucking little boys? And y'all turn a blind eye to it, send them to another parish. Why not adjust those stupid ass rules? If you want the priest to never get married, who is that going to attract? Somebody that doesn't want to fuck or somebody that's mentally off. That's a breeding ground for pedophiles, you dumbass. You can never get married and have pussy. Now come here and do this forever. What bad? What could go wrong? Your application is a pedophile fucking paradise. Jesus Christ. Adjust. Adjust. Sidney Jackson said, these, in parentheses, to use a Chief Rocker term, Gentile Jews, not even the real chosen people. Life started in Africa. How y'all mitzvahs the chosen ones? And again, we're going to get into that. JBJ said, you're good, sir. Keep preaching. JBJ said, God is good. Let's continue with the great Khalid Muhammed completely dismantling Donahue in this setting. This to me is a great explanation of what happens to so many of us. As I said many a time, the slow IV drip of brainwashing we deal with, the psychological warfare and the effect that it has on us. The brothers that the imposters that are black when it's convenient, taking pictures with a screw face, using the slang when it's convenient, and more than willing to throw ninjas under the bus for their own personal advancement. But he was asked about black people that kind of agreed with a mainstream point of view, or agreed with or spoke highly of America, or that desired to come here. He spoke of black people that maybe shared in his viewpoint. And Khalid Muhammed had this to say.
I believe that my ancestors, I believe that the blood that cries out from the grave of my ancestors who went to an untimely death at the hands of the white wicked slave traders, I believe that they cry out, their spirit is around me and their spirit emanates from me. And I believe that as a righteous man of God, but as a freedom fighter and a revolutionary, it is one of the greatest honors that could be paid. Black people have been...
My apologies. What actually happened right there is something that I spoke about before, is that to me, when the guilt trip of what black people went through, you should always vote. And I'm not going to argue with that. I vote. I just speak truthfully about how ineffective it is in some instances, and how it's not the end all be all, and how people that you're voting for are obviously not allowed to be black in that position. And if you are, you're allowed to do it to a degree. And if you dare tell the truth and try to be a good person, you're attacked. But that said a lot. We died for this. Did you know that black people died so we could have equal rights and not be treated like shit anymore too? Why doesn't anybody ever scream, we died for the right to, not put up with bullshit anymore. Well, that's never brought up. It's only when it's convenient and some soft shit. We died for the right to vote. We did. We also died to not be treated like a second-class citizen. We also died to have the right to beat the shit out of somebody that treated us wrong. There was a time when beating the shit out of a white person you needed to was illegal, and you had to fucking move. We died for that too, but that's never brought up. It's so interesting. What he was speaking about then was to finish off the point I was just making. I feel that you owe it to your ancestors who actually went through shit to, at a bare minimum, stand on business. And again, just like Khalid Muhammed, he's not shooting up 10 black people in a grocery store in Buffalo. He's not killing black people in a church in South Carolina. That's crazy ass white people specifically attacking black people. They're accusing him of attacking the Jewish community and attacking the white community. Has he shot anybody? Has he kept them from getting loans? Has he done anything to any of them other than them hearing words they don't like? Black people don't get to be that sensitive and pathetic. We don't have the right. We don't have the right. We don't get to be. I can't relate. I have no empathy for that. So it's weird for me. I don't understand black people to do. It's very weird. But again, as I'm saying that, he was just speaking about how he feels that he hears his ancestors' cries, and he feels that the best way to honor them, or one of the best ways you can honor them, is to always speak the truth and not dumb down what they went through for the ancestors of the people that did it to them. And that's just the truth. And the average black person nowadays will do that or roll their eyes at it, and half of them are fucking educators. We're in a really bad place mentally. But let's continue as to what I was describing before, talking about the mental warfare that we go through in America.
Of a knowledge of self. And when you rob people, sir, of a knowledge of self, then it means that they start to take on the characteristics and the nature of their oppressor and their colonizer. And his mind, by automatic, systematic, remote control, rules in our people. He gives them the guns and the weapons and the drugs and the alcohol, the way you did our brothers, the red man and the red woman, brothers and sisters, the way you did our Latino brothers and sisters, and then you pit one against the other and then say, look at what these people are doing.
And speaking about the process of mental warfare, and again, speaking about how they always talk about the results of the conditions, but they never talk about the conditions. So let's just continue. Another case of what I like to refer to as false equivalence. And here comes a case of false equivalence that Mr. Muhammad dismisses immediately.
What these people are doing. Sir, this is not reverse racism nor discrimination that you could tie into your statement on Hitler. If the slave master is whipping the slave and blood is running down the slave's...
I'll continue. What the audience member asked him, and again, just to clarify, he said, Hitler did this, and that. Are you telling me, sir, that you agree with Hitler's philosophy? Khalid Muhammed has said nothing in this interview that justifies that. He's simply stating the truth about what black people are going through, and every Jewish person and white person there is trying to make it about them and trying to play a victim. Nothing he said could equate to, I agree with what Hitler did. Nothing he said is even in that fucking atmosphere. So it's a stupid ass statement to begin with, but that's what the question was, comparing him to Hitler. But again, who has he killed? Black words worse than white actions.
Comes from the cracker man who was had the crack of the whip on the slave's back. But if the slave takes the slave master's whip from him and starts whipping the slave master with his own whip, that is not reverse racism. That is not reverse discrimination. That is the slave getting out from under the yoke of bondage and oppression. I don't advocate what Hitler has done before the world. Hitler's struggle. I went to the Holocaust Memorial Museum and I tried to separate Hitler as a freak of nature from the rest of white people. But after all that we have gone through, I know that there's a little bit of Hitler in all white people and a lot of Hitler.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
And again, for the people that would take offense to that, to hear everything he said that can't be disputed and what he said at the end bothers you. Why? I just spoke about the incident in Buffalo. Not the incident, the massacre. The news didn't cover that shit. They don't give a fuck. That's not a heartwarming story. It's just 10 black people who gives a fuck. That's Hitler-like. When they talked about the situation in South Carolina, it wasn't talked about vitriol. They didn't kill that motherfucker when they came to pick him up. They took him to Burger King because that's where you take people when they do a good job. You know, kid after the game, you hit a home run, Johnny. That's Hitler-like. Voting for a president that ran on nothing other than fuck them niggas and the Mexicans. That's Hitler-like. Playing victim in the country your ancestors stole. If you can't make it, you're fucking pathetic. If you're offended, sorry. You're pretty pathetic. They stole this bitch. You can make it. I know some very mediocre Caucasians that can do just fine. If you can't make it, I'm sorry. You're a dumbass. No apologies. Outside of a mental illness. What? Again, instead of nobody's talking about what he's talking about because they don't give a fuck about anything that he's saying. And that's why he has to be that way. He's laying out the problems and what black people are going through, have went through, and continue to go through. And not one fucking person there, not Donahue, nor anybody in that audience that isn't black, wants to talk about that shit. They're just trying to find a way to shut him up by lying and saying you're hateful and you're this and you're that. They're more passionate about that than they were about those murders I was just talking about. And again, voting for this piece of shit. January 6th, hello, a little bit of Hitler. You can dislike the words, but, fix your behavior. And this is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja. Let's read a little bit of chat and I'll continue. JBJ says, Sid Jack, very creative how you spelled Jew. Otherwise, your chat would have been flagged. You're a goddamn genius. You must have a goddamn IQ of 160. Can't play chat right now. I probably should read this later. JBJ, that's JBJ saying that. JBJ said, the crack cut him off abruptly. We'll be back in just a moment. The cracker cut him off abruptly. We'll be back in just a moment. Hang in there, whites. JBJ said the truth is for everyone, but everybody might not be for the truth. I might come back to that and hit those sound bites shortly, but again. Okay. Again, just calmly breaking down and telling the truth on everything that he's being confronted with. And right here, again, as they just accused of one of the audience members, a Jewish audience member, accused him of supporting Hitler and that type of behavior. A member of the audience, a black member of the audience, pointed out something in the Jewish culture that is underplayed and supported by the United States and is relevant to this day.
What about Goldstein, who slaughtered 39 Palestinians and became a Jewish hero? Publicly, rabbis said what about the fingernails? Dr. Khalid said that the rabbis said that the fingernail of one Jew was worth more than all of the Arabs in the world. And the New York Times ran the lead story with the photo showing the Jews filing past his grave.
Yes.
They not only called him a hero, but a saint.
Yes, may I make this point, Mr.
Okay, so And now you tried to come in and say he was dismissed and whatnot, but let's just talk about it. Number one, the news was showing this and showing them going by the grave. And it's the same thing America does with all of these pieces of shit that as a black person, if you were alive, you would shoot them in the goddamn face. It's the exact same thing America does. Same bullshit. And that's what's popping off now. Genocide that they commit, but they're painted as these victims. So they commit genocide. You better not say anything about it. Khalid Muhammed says words that he can back up with literature and things written by Jewish people. And somehow he hates Jewish people. Do Jewish people hate? Again, the fingernail of a Jewish person is better than how many Palestinians? How many did he say? How many Palestinians? So I'm assuming Jewish people hate Palestinians. If that's the case, they have to if you're accusing Khalid Muhammed of hate. But again, the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy. Let's make sure I'm not off here. Okay, that is that one. Let's see. Okay. This is and this is when they were taking questions from the audience, just a summarization. It was two different Jewish people, I think both former soldiers. And here's the hypocrisy here. They're bringing up, there was a movie about it. Black people that were in the Navy, and the Navy had them handling weapons that weren't stable. And when, they ended up blowing up and a lot of them died, they blamed the black people for it, gave them a dishonorable discharge. I believe there was actually a mutiny. There was a movie about it. There was a movie about that. And I think to this day, they're still dishonorably discharged. And he talked about how they're trying to fight that as like the former Jewish military members. But again, you want credit for normal shit. Okay, you're not cool with complete and utter savagery and bullshit. Thank you for being normal. I appreciate it. But let's take into the fact that you're talking about this Jewish thing. At the end of the day, you were looked at as being white. You were in the military. You got the same privileges. They didn't have you in the segregated Jewish section. They didn't have you fucking with munitions and all that. You got to do the same shit all the rest of the white soldiers were doing. So that's where the false equivalence comes in. But again, he's not talking about anything Khalid Muhammad is talking about. He asked him, what have you done about this specifically? Like, I'm Jewish and I'm doing this. What are you doing about this? Again, not addressing anything he's talking about. But again, he wanted credit for being normal in that situation. And immediately after, Khalid Muhammad addresses the racism in the military.
The Holy Quran says that the messenger of God believes in what has been revealed, and so do the believers. And I am a believer. In Islam, we believe in one God whose personal and proper name is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that one God, we believe, sent all of the prophets and the great ones in the great line of divine, and we believe in all of the revealed scriptures. I don't know you, sir. I could feel that if you were attempting to live according to the law of God, then you might be my brother in the faith, but not my brother by nature. That's right.
And then addressing what he had said about, that situation. And he also asked him, is it possible that I could also be your brother? And that's why he said, if I found you to be a moral man and a man that actually, walked in faith, you could be my brother in faith, but not my brother in nature. And now we'll get into his comments about the military and how racist it is. And this is when the Jewish soldiers were trying to change the subject, but again, not really addressing after the fact and trying to play hero. Look what we're doing for, after the fact. I'm sure when you were in the military and it was happening, y'all let it go because they were letting y'all slide for being Jewish, and now you feel guilty and you want to do some shit before you die. Okay, cool. Did you say shit when you were active and they were doing that shit around you? Okay, cute. But Brother Muhammad speaks on racism in the military and once again gives an example.
On anything, but I would say this, that I do know that during that same war, that America was, as is today, so racist until the German officers, when they were captured, could eat in the same mess hall and have the same accommodations as the white American officers. But the black troops were segregated, couldn't come into that mess hall unless they were scrubbing the floors and washing dishes. So it was a white man honoring another white man, though one was American and one was German, and they were supposed to be enemies. There was still a tie that was able to bind the two together.
You love a man who randomly...
And this is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja. Did I missed one. I could go back and get it, but it's all good. Okay. We have a couple more that we're going to play, but that was, again, just the edited version of the interview and the way he chopped up everything that they tried to do. So before I end this segment, and maybe in more than that, let's play this, and I think this is relevant. A few of these are relevant. First, do you remember when Nick Cannon made those comments and the Jewish people, made him apologize? Same with Kyrie Irving, although Kyrie Irving didn't apologize for telling the truth. Because, again, he's standing on a solid foundation. Remember what Nick Cannon said? And there's been other situations. But every time, generally a black person, but when a black person says something that Jewish people or white America don't want to hear, they accuse them of being anti-Semitic and say you should apologize. But as long as this country and the majority of its occupants aren't going to, because if these things you're saying that if posting a link to a movie is anti-Semitic, then every white person on the fucking planet is anti-black. Without question. Without question. Even the ones with mixed kids, by those dumbass standards, by those stupid ass standards. But if we're being realistic, there is obviously a lot more anti-black sentiment than there is quote unquote anti-Semitic sentiment. Now, again, let's address that statement. And when it's brought up, you always hear the white people that are allowed to have platforms dismiss it. But let's hear from somebody explaining it from a historical context. Why is it that black people cannot be anti-Semitic?
I'd like to see us lay to rest this whole notion of anti-Semitism. The one thing that is an incorrect statement, because the whole idea of a Semites were people who lived in southwestern Asia, including northeast Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, who spoke Ugaritic, who spoke Ge'ez, who spoke Ethiopic, who spoke Hebrew, who spoke Arabic. Those are our people. We are a Semitic people, therefore we cannot be anti-Semitic. Ashkenazic Jews are calling us anti-Semitic. We cannot be anti-Semitic because we are the descendants of a Semitic people. Let's lay that to rest. That was a weapon in the hands of the Jews since 1870. They used it against other people, but it doesn't work against people in Northeast Africa. Thank you.
Imagine the history being tainted to the point to where that sounds crazy. But again, I didn't hear anybody argue his facts. Imagine warping history to the point where saying something like that, where even your people are looking at you funny. And every time I've heard a white person bring it up, they never give you a reason. They just say, oh, that's bullshit. Based on what? The history you motherfuckers wrote? What's the American motto? We're with Israel. I'm sure you're very upfront about all of this shit, right? I'm gonna play that one more time, and these are the things that this is what Kyrie Irving was saying without saying it completely because they would be at him. This is what Nick Cannon was talking about, and they made him apologize. They're not having to apologize for really being anti-Semitic. Anti-black is everybody that voted for Trump, whether you like how that sounds or not, or poorly raised, you pick one. Anti-Semitic is not saying historical facts that you don't like.
I'd like to see us lay to rest this whole notion of anti-Semitism. The one thing that is an incorrect statement, because the whole idea of a Semites were people who lived in southwestern Asia, including northeast Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, who spoke Ugaritic, who spoke Ge'ez, who spoke Ethiopic, who spoke Hebrew, who spoke Arabic. Those are our people. We are a Semitic people. Therefore, we cannot be anti-Semitic. Ashkenazic Jews are calling us anti-Semitic. We cannot be anti-Semitic because we are the descendants of a Semitic people. Let's lay that to rest. That was a weapon in the hands of the Jews since 1870. They used it against other people, but it doesn't work against people in Northeast Africa. Thank you.
As he said, that's a weapon. They're still using it. That anti-Semitic shit, that's their weapon. Not complicated, childish, stupid shit. That's their weapon. Don't say that you're anti-this because the people that don't give a fuck about you say so. It's so weird that we can't. They openly show us they don't give a goddamn about what happens to us, but when they say you're this and we say so, apologize, we care. It's fucking crazy. There are situations where you might have to do it for your economic betterment, but that's not the case for everybody. It's really not. It's really not. And if you believe that you are anti-Semitic, then you have to know that everybody in your face is anti-black by default. Again, black words, terrible. White actions, that didn't happen. But that'll make our kids feel bad. It didn't happen. That's not history. That's how you get this bullshit. And you could dig into the fact that they were, okay, you know what? There's a war because people were removed from their land and the shit was given to somebody that's not supposed to be given to. You know what? Let me just keep on. Let's a couple more clips and I'll finish up the chat. And these two I'm going to keep. This that definition of the one for anti-Semitism that's going to be in the board, and this one, because without ever admitting that this is a racist country, white people will call black people racist in a minute. I've heard white people call Malcolm X racist, but not their grandparents. Again, psychopathy is real. And Khalid Muhammed addresses this as well. Again, this is chopped up. This is the last clip I have from him, and I'm going to end this with a sister that everybody's familiar with. But the last clip I have from Khalid Muhammed addressing the notion of black people being racist.
So racism is everywhere and it's institutionalized. We cannot really be racist because racism is prejudice plus power. Nothing I say up here nor anywhere in the world will impact, stop fronting, will impact on any white folks in this audience, on your job, in politics, in economics, in housing, in the society. We don't have the power to do that, so we cannot be racist. You know what I'm saying?
He slid that in, but I'm going to play that again. Let's make sure you don't miss the point. Nothing that I'm saying is going to affect the way you fucking live. The way we live is affected. Y'all don't give a goddamn, but you want us just to be quiet so you're not bothered and taken out of your comfort zone with things you'd rather not hear that are true. And for the average ninja not to be outraged by that mentality is crazy to me. That's why I don't understand why anybody would mix words. They're not deserving of that. The grace that we've given is all the grace that is necessary. Grace with words isn't happening. They don't deserve that shit. You're not going to be not burdened with the truth because you want to act like this shit would happen through some type of beautiful. No, it was savage bullshit. Anyway, let me move on. Gonna play that one more time. Again, the main point is that nothing I'm saying, nothing I'm saying is going to affect your fucking ability to buy a house, your employment, your ability to earn money. None of this shit matters. But you're acting like it's the end of the fucking world. And again, this goes back to the first thing when he said he loves that brother that went on that rage. It's amazing that more of us don't snap. It's fucking amazing. And again, further proof that we're not savages. We're actually God's chosen people. If we weren't, this motherfucker would be on fire.
So racism is everywhere and it's institutionalized. We cannot really be racist because racism is prejudice plus power. Nothing I say up here nor anywhere in the world will impact, stop fronting, will impact on any white folks in this audience, on your job, in politics, in economics, in housing, in the society. We don't have the power to do that, so we cannot be racist. You know what I'm saying?
And just to close it out, just if you want to say a so-called olive branch, but still jabbing the hell out of you. A familiar voice that I'll let y'all identify. But if you want to extend an olive branch, and this has been mentioned, or I've said this before, if you're going to teach history, teach the real history to everybody, and that's how you move on. But you motherfuckers want to move on by telling us, shut up, that didn't happen, or you can't talk about that because the descendants of the people that benefited from it say so. And not enough black people care about or are even offended by that. You're more offended by whatever story they tell you you should be offended by. You can't be a representative of me in any type of governed body or government body or any type of member of any type of Senate or Congress or whatever position you may have. If this is not your top priority as a black person, what fucking good are you? And it's like it's not even fucking happening. But this very articulate and informative sister spoke on the lack of education for everybody in America.
Yeah, I would just like to say to this gentleman, I would like to say to this gentleman and all other people who are not blessed with melanin at this point in time, to understand that what has happened in our history is that you have been misinformed as much as we have been misinformed. Much of the information that is brought forth, not only from Dr. Muhammad, but other areas, other scholars, are not available to you, as the sister said, in your curriculums that you have for 400 years when you did not allow us to read and write and was being hidden. Whether you, sir, personally did that or not, it was a legacy that was passed on to you. And I end by saying the Holocaust is simply the greatest atrocity on film. Ours was not filmed.
Gonna play that one more time, but again, the close. The African Holocaust is spoken about. And again, another point. When that's brought up, these same Jewish people claim anti-Semitism when we bring up the African Holocaust. You know why? Because them in this country, that they are passing bills to fight anti-Semitism, which doesn't fucking exist. They've decided that's not important to talk about because they both participated and benefited in it. Therefore, when it's brought up, they call you anti-Semitic. Once again, it's amazing that more of us don't snap. One more time, sister.
Yeah, I would just like to say to this gentleman, I would like to say say to this gentleman and all other people who are not blessed with melanin at this point in time to understand that what has happened in our history is that you have been misinformed as much as we have been misinformed. Much of the information that is brought forth, not only from Dr. Muhammad, but other areas, other scholars, are not available to you, as the sister said, in your curriculums that you have for 400 years when you did not allow us to read and write and was being hidden. Whether you, sir, personally did that or not, it was a legacy that was passed on to you. And I end by saying the Holocaust is simply the greatest atrocity on film. Ours was not filmed.
You're a goddamn genius. You must have a goddamn IQ of 160. You are goddamn gifted.
This is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, that Ninja. And this concludes my thoughts and my spotlight and highlight on the great Khalid Muhammed. Black people as a whole, I think we would benefit from learning from our true leaders and beneficiaries, people that actually fought for us. We would be much better off as a people with the knowledge that would be gained from hearing them speak and the energy I get from that. And as Sluggo said, I feel like I was robbed because these things were going on in real time while I was coming up in life, and I would have loved to have been privy to hearing these things. I just feel it would have awoken things in me a lot earlier in life. It happened eventually, but it would have happened so much sooner. And that would have been, I think, beneficial to me as an individual. Let me read this chat, and then I'll let y'all know where we're at. I'm going to pull this train into the station, and we're going to have to get that piss poor movie tournament together on a different day. The time has gotten away from me a little bit, and I have some things to attend to. Sidney Jackson said, when faced with the truth, a savage will either deflect or throw a tantrum, but never say, yes, that is a fact, and I will do better. Again, preach. Preach, sir. When you ask them to do better,
I don't know how to do none of that shit.
facts, Sidney Jackson. Facts, sir. Facts.
You hear you? I hear you.
Sluggo said, straight facts. White prisoners of war had more access than black soldiers, but you can't teach that in classrooms. Again, preach.
You hear you? I hear you.
ABM said, nope. Sidney Jackson said, them Jews made Jamie Foxx apologize for us as for an old saying in the black community, for us for an old saying in the black community about if people will kill Jesus, what chance we got. And them Jews said it was anti-Semitic. Man, fuck y'all and die. Go to hell. All the shit we go through to y'all ignoring, you want me to care about that? Fuck you. Made up ass goddamn story. ABM said the Jews have LeBron bent over like Ving Rhames in Pulp Fiction. That is a horrible image, sir. Horrible. Sidney Jackson said King Leopold killed many more people than Hitler ever did, but that's never ever taught. Facts. King Leopold killed millions of Congolese. Millions. That's why in Belgium they do those little chocolate hands, because they used to cut the hands off of black children. And they still do that now, little chocolate hands. And the history's so fucked up and we're so fucked up, you might go to that country and be like, oh, little chocolate hands, this is a tradition here. Let me eat some. And yes, you're fucked up if you uphold to that tradition. The only excuse is I didn't know. Once I tell you, if you get pissed off when I bring it up, instead of admitting how fucked up that is, fuck you too. Once again, all of these things and learning these things over the years just reaffirms and reinforces the fact that the higher power is definitely not a micromanager. Definitely not. ABM said, preach, sister. Sidney Jackson said, ours was not filmed. Sluggo said, our women today are out here twerking during protest. Damn, Sluggo. Sluggo said, our women today are out here twerking during protests. We're largely devolved in our fight against these savages. I don't know what I'm supposed to. Am I supposed to argue? Okay. Jesus Christ. Boy, you stupid. Hey, look, man, appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for the back and forth. I've just about ran 3, and I have some obligations to attend to. So I'm going to pull this train into the station. Thank you for coming aboard on a awkward day for the train, Thursday, but I had to get a show in today. ABM said the clear folks are checking my chat. Yeah, you have to be creative with your language, man. This is a very restrictive chat room, and I appreciate your patience, and I'm tickled and impressed by the ability of the chat room to ad lib and get around these restrictions that are placed in said chat room. But look, man, I appreciate y'all. I'm going to come to an abrupt ending, pull this train into the station, and continue my evening. But look, man, I appreciate y'all. We're going to be back on Monday. We're going to, I'll have something to talk about, probably have another highlight, or it could be anything. This time of year, I could go anywhere. I could continue to talk about, just highlight somebody. I could go college ball. I could go anywhere at this point, but we're going to have some subject matter, and then we're going to get into, and I don't know if you have a minute, kind of put a little thought into it, get into the worst movies ever, tournament of 32 of the worst movies. And, we're going to try to have a strong feel. So, every matchup is, somewhat difficult and makes it a little more interesting. So keep that in mind. We're going to get into that next time. Yeah. Sluggo said Nick has a date with Sally. You stupid, sir. Appreciate y'all, man. Thank you for the back and forth. We're going to leave with that sister dropping the microphone on the way out the door. Going to have an abbreviated outro, which is going to happen right now. Appreciate y'all, man. Y'all take care. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you for the back and forth. Thank you for the therapy. Shout out and respect to the great Khalid Muhammed. Thank you, sir, for speaking your mind with your entire chest and having the ability to do so, because you did it speaking on things from a solid foundation, which is why you could not be shook or compromised or ashamed or silenced by anybody asking you questions, because when you base things on a solid foundation, you have an answer. And he had nothing but answers. Oh, I just saw something very disrespectful. And he had nothing but answers for Donahue and his audience. Before we get out of here, motherfuckers, 334, make sure a golden child is on the list. ABM said Nick missing and ending shows early for the Newtsy. Sir, that's not entirely a lie.
Sick help! Sick help!
But may I remind you, pussy's undefeated.
The truth is for everybody, but everybody might not be for the truth.
So, ABM, facts, Bama. Let me explain something. 334, I love and respect you, sir. But Golden Child, well, you know what? Y'all have the ability to put it in there. Golden Child will not be in this tournament. There are two. You cannot find 32. Golden Child will not make this tournament. It's not possible. It's so disrespectful. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for the back and forth. We're not going to talk about the great Golden Child. I want the knife. If that bum didn't steal my money, we could have got a boat with a motor. Shut up and roll. Yeah, I'm going to roll. I'm going to roll your ass when I find you. Till it bleeds. You're not going to talk about Golden Child. Thank you, Sidney Jackson. No Golden Child slander. What the hell's going on around this motherfucker, man? Hey, look, appreciate y'all, man. I'm out to speak. Thank you for the back and forth. Thank you for the therapy. I consider that back and forth to be therapeutic, which makes all of you my de facto therapists. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for the session. Appreciate y'all. Abbreviated outro. We're going to leave on that sister dropping the mic. We'll see y'all next time. As always, take care. No Golden Child slander. And be easy.
Yeah, I would just like to say to this gentleman, I would like to say to this gentleman and all other people who are not blessed with melanin at this point in time, to understand that what has happened in our history is that you have been misinformed as much as we have been misinformed. Much of the information that is brought forth, not only from Dr. Muhammad, but other areas, other scholars, are not available to you, as the sister said, in your curriculums that you have for 400 years when you did not allow us to read and write and was being hidden. Whether you, sir, personally did that or not, it was a legacy that was passed on to you. And I end by saying the Holocaust is simply the greatest atrocity on film. Ours was not filmed.